Grow Great is a city government leadership podcast with Lisa Norris and me, Randy Cantrell. Each week we share insights, experiences, and wisdom to help you and your leadership grow great. Our website is growgreat.com.
So we are on part 5 of this mini-series, 7 Dangerous Enemies of Great Leadership. This particular one is now on need for control. We just spoke about lack of vision, hesitation, poor understanding of people. Our last week was ego, and this week need for control, which is very related to ego. And, you know, it's interesting on the challenges with control. We've probably all either experienced it or have done it ourselves. Something you love, you have to give up. Something you are managing that you have fixed and you don't want to let go. A passion project. It can be a variety of things. But I think for the context of this one, we really focused on leadership and leading with needing a sense of control. I've seen it, honestly, on this one, I've seen it both good and bad. The good being if there's somebody that's really good at control and very organized, they are the best people at creating processes, fixing things, SOPs, and getting an entire process fixed. Challenge. They focus on tasks and not people. Right? Mm-hmm. So that I've seen a control freak do great in certain roles and jobs. But for leadership, it is really difficult if you cannot release control or don't know how to release control. Because in order to release control, you have to teach and mentor. And a person that loves control might release the reins a little bit, but as soon as they see there's a failure or a break in the dam, they start pulling it back in and wanting to take that over again. Now, a lot of this, I believe, on this particular trait only, it's sometimes how people are wired is what I found, Randy. I'd be open to argument, but I think some people are wired. That's just the way they're built, and they have to learn to manage it and control it for an effective leader. And I've seen people also do that. I've experienced people myself that this is many moons ago. I had a leader I had 2 previous jobs, but in that case, she liked to say, I want you to do this project. And you start doing it with limited direction. And I was very young in my career. So back then I didn't know to be curious. I would just say, okay, my understanding is X and the output you want is X, correct? That was it. I didn't know to go, okay, I don't know where to even find that. So I just go start asking people, right. But I was very young. So I hadn't experienced this career journey to know you need it. When do you need it by? What do you need included? Who should be included? I didn't know to ask those questions. So I went around and I would try to do stuff. And then I'd turn Steph in and she's like, well, this totally sucks. Where did you get this from? Where did you get this from? This is not what I needed. The budget office needs X. And I'm like, okay. And so I go try to fix it. I'm like, what else would you like included? And then she's like, you know what? Never mind. I just threw that away and I'm going to do it myself. And I'm like, I just spent 4 weeks on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Really build up your self-esteem.
But you learn through if you listened to the prior session, what I've learned is that if you learn to ask questions, you can manage that. You can manage up. You just got to ask the right questions to get what you need. And the leaders that truly care, they're going to listen. If you say, hey, I'd like to be exposed to this, but here's what I need. What I don't know is X, what I don't know is Y, and what I don't know is Z. So I'm going to navigate this. I'd like the opportunity to navigate it. What do you need to help you feel comfortable as I move through this? Because this is your baby, right? Those things seem to always work if you have a really great leader that just has this natural trait to be a driver and control. And a lot of great jobs, I mean, how many we've seen this? A lot of these great jobs are the IT people. finance people, budget people. They need control. But they need it for a reason, right? They do these great, they need control. They need to know what's happening, when it's happening to make everything work. So there are jobs and skills that fit those roles really, really well. There are jobs and skills that fit people really well. We always used to laugh. All my finance and budget friends, my current leader, got a finance background. And I used to say, when they'd ask me about money or dollars or numbers, I'm like, listen, I am not a numbers person. I'm a people person. So I need somebody checking me. Checking, it takes me 10 times longer to get there. I can get there. But you surround yourself, and the same with them. They're like, yeah, I'm not people. And they'll ask me for help on, I need to do a team builder. I need to do, so you can balance each other through these skills. But working, this is one, it's a dangerous trait if it goes too far and you never let go of the reins and it's to the detriment of the team. They have a failure, you don't allow them the opportunity to succeed by coaching and teaching. I call it a ding. You ding them. Every time they have a failure, you ding them. You rip something away. You criticize, you critique. That's not going to be effective for any team, just naturally from any leadership trait.
Yeah. This is one of those need for control. So we're at this number 5 out of 7. I just don't think you can paint it with as broad a brush as I think a lot of people want to, because it's been said, and I think it's true, great leaders see the future first. So some of that control, I have learned, especially in my own life, is not so much the need for control, but it's the need to try to reach this outcome, this vision that you see that other people don't yet see.
The need to get it right.
So I was driven as a young leader and still am. I mean, there are things in my life right now, personally and professionally. I talk about the ideal outcome. I can see the ideal outcome. Okay, well, that doesn't mean everybody else sees the ideal outcome. But if I'm the leader and this is my life,
right,
and I'm going to determine this is the ideal outcome, now it's up to me to sell that, to get that proverbial buy-in
right.
from other people. And so I think there's that aspect of control. But then you get down to the subtext of what is on this chart leads to micromanagement and stifles creativity and initiative. Now it gets down to Susie is on the line. She's doing her job, and I'm constantly over her shoulder, and I'm constantly criticizing. I'm just constantly second guessing Susie's work at every. Okay, that's a whole different deal than a leader who sees the future first and who's selling this vision, because we go back to number one. Number one enemy is a lack of vision. Well, any leader that has a vision is going to be a maniac on a mission. And there is a certain element of control that does go with that. But for me, it never was really control of trying to grab a hold of it. It was more control of trying to get everybody else to see it.
Yeah.
Trying to get everybody else on board, because culture was hugely important for me. It still is. It's a large focus of the work that I do. It's a big focus of the work that you and I are doing to get this culture right and get everybody on board. I think the difficulty with this part, and maybe even the last one, ego, is that ability to be at a macro level, to see bigger picture, and then sometimes the need to get down into the weeds. Get your boots dirty. And sometimes you need to be there, and sometimes you need to be here, and it's knowing when to be where that's the hard part.
So much of this chart, and I encourage listeners, if you're just jumping into this mini series, we've got the last several weeks, and we've got 2 left. We also have the chart in there on growgreat.com for our podcast, so you can see the chart. But so much of this, Randy, in my opinion, it's not the individual dangerous traits. It's in combination, these things become extremely dangerous. So, for instance, the last three, if you have high ego and you don't understand people and you don't want to understand people, and then you're a control freak, all of those, it's like the perfect storm. Individually, you can manage them, ego being to me the hardest. Ego, when you have high ego.
But at the same time, if you could have a lack of ego, and if you have a lack of ego, then you're not going to be an effective leader either. So
that's correct.
There's this fine line.
It's like this balance of all of these things combined, and understanding. I have seen over and over, I'm sure many of our listeners have as well, the challenge becomes on a leader with high ego who doesn't choose to understand their people or even see what they can do. Their potential. We talked about potential a lot. They don't understand their potential. Well, they're certainly, if they can't see their potential, they're not even going to be willing to give them things. They're going to want control. And typically they're going to be critical when they don't do it the way they would have done it. So they don't see that there's another way to achieve it either. And I think that's what's important here, is that this high ego, this demand for control, and the unwillingness or inability, maybe not even unwilling, the inability to see what they could do if you just help them, creates this dangerous, vicious kind of cycle that we're going through in this mini series, and really creates an ineffective team. With any one of these, much less several of them combined, you will not reach a high-performing team. You cannot. Because first, the foundation of humility that we talk about is not there. If you aren't humble enough to listen and understand, to gain the knowledge you need for your team to make it better, there is no way you can move your path forward. You just can't. You have to have humility as a founding principle in order to move forward and make everything else work.
Before we dismount from this one, need for control, let me take some editorial privilege here and say need for credit.
Mm-hmm.
Need for credit. And you think what? Because I think that is part of this whole control. So I'm the leader, but I need to get the credit. I need to make sure that I get the credit for whatever we do. And your thoughts are?
Well, my thoughts are it's definitely a frustrating feeling for those that have experienced it. All the work is put in by somebody else, and there's not credit given where credit's due. I think that's part of an effective leader. On the flip side, to help that team, you acknowledge your team and build them up. That simply breaks them down, and they're going to be less willing to really do a great job in the future because no credit's given to their efforts. And I'm not saying you have to praise them out loud continually and always. I've had people that come to me that just appreciate a private thank you. That's all that they need. You have to recognize each person and back to understanding your people.
Are those congruent in your experience, or no? Need for control and need for credit? Because in my experience,
they go to absolutely
they're very
100%
related
together. Yes. Often it's the same. There's a whole litany of things that go with control. And go with ego, frankly. You know, that's a bad combination all the way around for any leader.
Yeah, we ended the ego part, basically saying, you do you, it's your decision. But if you're stuck in that kind of a situation, well, I was more bold than you. It's like, get out. Learn what you can while you're there. Again, the need for control. You see what you see. Can you communicate that? Do you communicate that in a way? And we're talking about leadership roles here. If you are the boss and you see something and the troops don't, I guess my question and my challenge would be, how do you handle that? How do you communicate that? Or do you communicate that? Or do you just get frustrated that they don't see what you see? I think it's incumbent on us as leaders to help other people see what we see, because it does at least explain that number one problem, lack of vision. It explains we have the vision, but not all leaders are great at communicating that vision. We can all be easily frustrated because we see it, and why can't you see it, and why aren't you giving me what I see? And I'll end on this note on this part, because it so supersedes virtually all 7 of these. And it's a phrase that you and I use very regularly in this whole leadership recipe that we teach and train: a focus on others. And the need for control is a focus on me, where a need for control to try to share a vision is really a focus on others. It's really a focus on the vision and trying to help other people see what the leader sees. But it's not even a third cousin to micromanagement.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a focus on others.
It's interesting when you talk about these traits, and you talk about, we talk about serving up and out and down. You can help people. When you have a person that needs control, what I've found, I'd be interested in your opinion on this, but I've often seen on this particular trait, they typically know they are a control freak, and they'll tell you. I don't know about you, but I don't know how many people I've had that are managers that listen, I'm a control freak.
They'll brag
I get it.
about it.
Yeah.
Badge of honor.
Yes, I know I am. I am what I am.
Yeah, that's a cop out. I don't buy that.
Can be, I was about to say, that can be good and bad if they're willing to listen. And so if you experience it, the way I've typically found it's helpful in working with leaders or employees, so again, coming to me from all directions over the years, is, do they listen to you when you say, I had a thought on this and it's different. I have a question. Can I ask a question? And if they say yes, ask the question, you ask it, and they're like, okay, good point. Or they let you continue in the dialogue. That's a person who has enough humility to let go, but they have to work through it. The opposite being, you ask and they're like, no, we're just going to do it this way. That does not make sense. And they just dismiss without exploration. So that seems to have worked over the years with many employees that I've faced and with leaders that I face, working with even people beneath them that are control freaks. Like, they're trying to get them to release and teach somebody else. Doesn't even have to be somebody in leadership. It could be a professional level or an administrative person. If they're willing to listen, and if they're willing to dialogue through questions, and they start acknowledging, okay, well, yeah, that could be done. You're going to have greater success with those. And as they become leaders, they will learn from that as well. The challenge becomes in those that shut it down, those that are not humble enough to believe there's an alternate way. Those are the greatest challenges that create what we've talked about before and destroy high-performing teams, because it's got to be their way or the highway. And we've heard that saying for years. That's what becomes ineffective.
Yeah, I think the practical reality for our audience, because we are talking about city government leadership, especially in some larger communities like yours. Grand Prairie is not a small little village. A lot of moving parts and a whole lot going on, and because the pace, which Lisa and I have talked about ad nauseum, the pace sometimes, I think, fosters a need for control or a sense of I need to control, because the conveyor belt of activity and work product that needs to be completed is just ceaseless.
Right.
And depending on the seasonality, it can really speed up. And I have conversations with employees in Lisa's cities and other cities, and we talk about it all the time. The discipline to go slow for a period so that we can really go fast down the road. And I've never seen it fail. I've never seen slowing down for a period of time, when appropriate and when you can, to train, to pass on, to mentor, so that, because you will exponentially make it up on the backside. The problem is we don't believe that. Until we experience it, we just don't believe it. because it doesn't seem possible. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that compounding interest table. I mean, it doesn't seem possible that a penny doubled every day for 30 days ends up with millions and millions of dollars. That just doesn't seem, but it is. It's math. It works.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to control today. And we have experienced in city government leadership, the need to control today drives us to just be, I think, maybe sometimes more control freakish than we might even normally be, because we just got to get this done. I don't have time to answer your questions. I don't have time to show you. I don't have time to coach you through. We got to get this knocked out. We got to get this done because the bosses are expecting it, CMO's expecting it, council's, whatever. We've got all those pressures. So it's not lost on Lisa and I that, yeah, sometimes that need for control, I would just encourage anybody listening, then control it in a positive way where you can train up, coach up, mentor up, and go slow just for a period of time so that exponentially you can go faster down the road. This is one of those things where I think you could turn a negative into a positive if we could just kind of tweak our thinking a little bit.
Have you ever been on the end of what you see a leader with self-control? Do they ever misread? Did they ever misread their teammates when they have a method that they're pursuing or a method that they believe in, and then their teammates question for clarity? Have you seen them ever misread what that looks like to them?
Oh, constantly.
What is it? What have you experienced that typically looks? How does that play out typically?
Well,
what do they believe the other person to be doing when they start questioning? Okay, is
when it's a boss? When it's a boss, typically, I think it's an inner thought that I know more than you. I maybe I have more experience than you.
Mm-hmm.
It's why when we talked about ego the last time, it's where you're not just an egomaniac,
right?
But okay, tap the brakes here. In this moment, you're assuming that there is no better way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from a practical reality in city government, my experience as a coach in the space is the pace in bigger cities especially is moving so fast. Yeah, I can't relinquish control of this, because if I do, we fall behind, and I'm already behind. I can't afford to fall any further behind.
Correct.
So
let me just do.
So the story that you told about your boss, so here, give it to me. I'm just going to do it. Okay, well, now we've robbed a person of an opportunity to grow and learn. We may have crushed their spirit and their confidence. We haven't helped ourselves in the long haul. Nor
nobody can help you do it now, nor are they willing to.
Yeah, nor have we helped ourselves in the short term, but we did put out this fire right here, right now. And unbeknownst to us, tomorrow there's a bigger fire. And then the day after, an even bigger fire. And then we bemoan the lot we have in life. And much of it is our own fault.
Right.
But it's not coming from a bad place. It's not coming from a place of I'm just a micromanager. It's coming from a place of I've got pressure to get this done. And I mean, come on, for years and years you were an HR director. Well, you're touching every paycheck, every employee,
every benefit.
And so the pressure,
life.
Pressure is from every corner to we've just got to get this done. When you found some shift through your period of being stuck, and we've all been there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that kind of a shift of the realization that, there's however many of us together. Well, all of us pulling together can get a whole lot more done and get it done a whole lot quicker. So
it was It
Go
was,
ahead.
I was going to say, well, I was going to say to your point when you were talking about how it looks as a leader from people that I have talked with, it often comes out from their perspective as being defensive. So they're like, I'm just trying to ask questions.
You mean the leader comes across as defensive?
Correct. No,
Yeah,
the leader feels the other person is defensive. So when I've talked to people and
by
coached
asking
people on
questions?
this,
Yeah.
so you're the leader and you want it a certain way. When they would come and ask me or have challenges,
Yeah,
in
don't
HR,
challenge me on this. Just do what
Yeah.
I say.
correct, and they'd like, it came across to the individual that the leader would often claim they're being defensive. You're being defensive, and the employees would go, I'm not trying to be defensive. I'm just trying to understand. Like, I need perspective. I need to know so I can do better next time, or make sure was my message clear? Did they understand what my ask is?
And meanwhile, the
Because
leader,
I'm trying to help them.
yeah,
right?
but meanwhile,
And so
the
I
leader's
always had to
probably
coach
thinking,
on
I
that.
don't have time for this. I
Yeah.
don't have time. I just got to get this done. Well, you and I
Yeah.
both know that's just the practical reality of it.
Correct.
And I'm just saying, I get that sometimes that's the case. We keep kind of coming back to communication and all this. And it's interesting to me that there really isn't communication on this list, but yet communication kind of envelops the whole thing.
Well, we all know
if I could
communication is
just say-
always the number one issue.
Yeah, I mean,
always. In
yeah.
some form, it's related to communication.
Yeah, if I could just say, listen, right now, I know you got questions. I'm going to be happy to answer those questions, but I can't right now because
Yeah.
we have got to get this done. And trust me, I am feeling all kinds of pressure.
Yeah.
So just bear
And who
with
doesn't
me.
appreciate that?
Well, everybody
That's not
would.
control.
No, but
That's leadership.
No, but leaders in the moment, too many times we let them see us sweat and we just, it's not good for them. It's not good for us, which is why I keep coming back to a focus on others. Can we think about how it looks and sounds and feels from their perspective? That's hard. Admittedly, that's hard to do. But
Yeah.
I would challenge anybody listening and watching, the more you do it, the easier it will get. And it will pay hugely, because you will find yourself surrounded by an army of people that their creativity will not be stifled. They will not have their initiative crushed. They will grow in their confidence. They will grow in their capacities. They'll grow in their competence. And you will get so much more done, maybe not tomorrow,
Right.
but 30 days from tomorrow, and then 30 days from that date, and 30 days from that date. And the production will just escalate beyond your wildest imaginations. I've
To
just
your
seen
point,
it over
you
and
have
over.
to move slow to go fast. Not forever,
But it's hard.
but there are moments that warrant it and that you must navigate that for your team. And anybody that's been in a career for any period of time has been through that, and it's effective and it works. And you just have to recognize it and do it for it to be effective.
Thanks for watching and listening to Grow Great, a city government leadership podcast. For Lisa Norris, I'm Randy Cantrell. Be well, do good, grow great. The website is growgreat.com.